She's more than 3 months along. This one should carry to term, Marguerite said reassuringly, proving she still had the bad habit of reading his mind. They waited until she was past the dangerous stage to share the news. I think she was afraid that announcing it before then would jinx it. Tiny nodded with understanding. From what he'd heard, the first miscarriage had been a terrible blow to the couple. He wasn't surprised they'd waited to announce this one. "Tell her congratulations from me," he said quietly as they straightened. "Why don't you tell her yourself?" Marguerite suggested. Tiny hesitated and glanced to the women, all gathered now at the far end of the room. Terry, Lee, and Inez all wore traditional white wedding gowns in various styles. Jackie, Jean-Louise, Lysiana, and Rachel, who were acting as bridesmaids, wore pastels, pink, aqua, and lavender. They all looked exquisite. Which was the problem. They were gorgeous, and they could read his thoughts. Much as he hated to admit it, not all those thoughts were stellar. He was a man, after all. And he didn't want to unintentionally insult any of the women with a stray thought that made its way up from his nether regions. "Ah," Marguerite said with understanding, reading his thoughts as always. She patted his shoulder reassuringly. "It's all right. They are used to mortal men and their stray thoughts." "But I'm not used to women being able to read mine," Tiny said dryly as he set the blood he'd collected on the table inside the door. "Tell Lee congratulations for me, and tell the others they look lovely." "Very well," Marguerite said solemnly. But when he turned to retreat from the room, she followed him out into the hall. Knowing she had something else to say, Tiny paused and glanced back in question. Marguerite hesitated, then murmured, "After the recent trouble, it is nice to have so much to celebrate." Tiny waited, knowing she had more to say. Finally, she breathed out a little sigh and simply asked, "You will be careful on this assignment?" "Geez, Marguerite," he said with irritation. The woman was always treating him like a child who couldn't take care of himself. It was sweet, but "I know you can take care of yourself, Tiny," she assured him quickly. "And if this were a normal assignment, I probably wouldn't even worry. Much," she added wryly when his expression turned dubious. She then rushed on. "But this is no fangers we are dealing with here, and—" "Hang on," Tiny interrupted suddenly as realization struck. "How do you know about this assignment? Lucian said it was top secret. He snapped his mouth shut and grimaced as he realized she'd probably plucked it out of his thoughts. Which was probably why Lucian hadn't given him the full details of the assignment until just moments ago. The wedding was only moments away, and he was supposed to stay in the private rooms until it did, then slip to his seat. Lucian was hoping that would minimize the chance of the wrong person reading his thoughts. "Actually, I didn't read your mind," Marguerite assured him quietly. "In fact, I'm the one who suggested you and Mireabeau when Lucian mentioned his plan to me." "You suggested Mireabeau and I be given the job," he said slowly, a frisson of alarm sliding through him. Marguerite was well known for her matchmaking, and the woman didn't do anything without a purpose. He suddenly wasn't feeling so good about this task he'd agreed to do for Lucien Argenot. Marguerite rolled her eyes. "Oh, don't look so alarmed." "Marguerite," he said, the name rolling off his tongue in a low growl. "Everyone knows what happens when you put two people together." "They find their life mates," she said with a satisfied smile, then rolled her eyes at his expression. "Please don't try to claim you wouldn't like to find a life mate." Tiny frowned. He was mortal, human, non-vampire. And mortals, as a rule, didn't have life mates. At least he didn't think they did. Certainly the divorce rate among his fellow mortals didn't suggest such was the case. Only immortals had life mates, or what they called life mates. Perfect partners they couldn't read or control, so they could live out their long lives in peace and passion. However, mortals could be life mates to immortals. As for whether he'd like to be one...